Hey, happy Sunday to you. So, I thought it might be useful for us to practice a little bit around acknowledging thoughts and the processes of the mind, and acknowledging that this too is part of our human experience, yet we get so entangled and so wrapped up in thought as if it were real and true. So I wanted maybe then today to just bring a few thoughts to you. Ha! See, I just did it. So bring some concepts and maybe some framing to you about thoughts. So I love the phrase that our minds secrete thoughts the way our salivary glands secrete enzymes. Okay, so we're thinking about processes that are just innately human. And also that thoughts are not right or wrong, good or bad. They are simply part of our evolutionary makeup to keep us safe, to help us survive, and to help us flourish, depending on how we relate to them. So perhaps then today, what I wanted to bring is 3 levels of potential awareness that we can bring to our relationship with thoughts processes, as well as to our mind. A lot of meditative books and practices point to this. And maybe there is this perception that we want to get to a place where there are no thoughts, where we get to a place where it's completely quiet, that's somehow a success, a win. And that is the way that if you're doing meditation correctly, that's the goal. Good luck with that. You may find moments of stillness and of quiet. Enjoy and relish those when they happen. Notice them. But you know what will happen in a second? More thoughts will come, because that's what our minds do. Our minds are vast and creative, and sometimes those thoughts that arise don't have our best interests at heart. So are you going to believe your thoughts? How much credence are you going to give them? How much weight? There was a great example of a monk walking with his students, and he was looking at a boulder like this one behind me, and he goes, "Do you think that rock is heavy?" And they said, "Yes." And he said, "Not if you don't pick it up." So are you going to pick it up? Are you going to go ahead and engage with that thought and give it more value and sway over you than it needs to? So if we acknowledge that thought processes are innately human, and that we have the opportunity perhaps to practice how we relate to them, that's what I want to bring up today, that there can be freedom, and we can have a sense of humor and lightness and compassion around this. So the 3 different levels that I want to bring up, number 1 is to notice the content of the experience. So maybe the practice of lightly naming what it is. Is it a picture thought? Is it a word thought? Are you labeling? Are you planning? Are you processing? So lightly naming the experience of the thought, to just notice the content. And just doing that, when we shed an awareness on it, it's interesting how it retreats and moves and changes. So that's really the second one, is noticing that thoughts in and of themselves are unsubstantial, like a cloud. Imagine that the sun comes from the cloud and it dissipates the cloud. So your awareness is the sun and the light, and the thought is the cloud in the sky, and it shifts and the cloud dissipates. It's like a rainbow. It's like something that is just uniquely in that moment and in that space, right? So it's unsubstantial, particularly if we don't get entangled in it. Some thoughts are more sticky, and you may even notice that there's some that repeat. You can joke with yourself and have a top 10 list, especially if there's something that you're particularly working through, or there's something that's causing you anxiety, or you're just working on a particular, concept, issue in your life. So you can just say, number 3, there you are again. So number one, noticing the experience and the content. Number two, that these are insubstantial in and of themselves. And the third is to shift to the perception that you are the witness of these thoughts, that you are the consciousness, you are the observer. You are not the thought. Just as we have talked about you not being a particular emotion, those are just simply energies moving through. So same with thought. So we give them no more weight than necessary, yeah? And we don't need to spend any more time burdened by them, triggered by them, weighted down, or just lost in thought. Take that into mind for just a moment. If we look around at the world today, it's been said by some wise Zen masters that the world seems lost in thought rather than being present with what is and the experience of what is now. Are you lost in thought? Could you change your relationship to thoughts as they arise and pass? Can you witness that and recognize them as unsubstantial and not necessarily being you? So there's a quote from the Buddha, kind of a wise guy, that I wanted to share. What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. The power of the mind is vast and beautiful and mysterious. We can choose to be an observer and note wisdom and know when it's fake news. Okay? So having a sense of humor and of compassion, and maybe that brings a sense then of freedom to where you are in relationship with your mind and to thought. Maybe that's what we try on, little by little. It's not stopping thoughts. It's not about quieting everything down or expecting that that quiet, if it should happen as a beautiful gem of a moment, that it will last. But perhaps we are able then to bring more of those moments of stillness and presence about because we're paying attention. So that's your Being Human 101 lesson for today, that our minds do what they do, and that we also have the ability to practice around how we relate to our experience, to our thoughts, to our connection, to our body, to our mind, and to the things that happen inside of us and around us. So with that, I practice with you and bringing awareness to my thoughts, to where I go with that when I get stuck and when I choose to move through and past. Try it on. So with that, I wish you a beautiful July evening, and I will look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye now.